Gone are those days expecting heavyweight fighters to slowly walk around the ring and load up on shots. Those are the previous generations of UFC heavyweight champs, and today we have fighters who can strike, grapple, and outwork you. Fighters like Ciryl Gane and now Tom Aspinall have transformed the division, and I think they are going to take over soon. In this video, I want to share why I think Tom Aspinall is going to be the next UFC heavyweight champion. We'll dive into his background as a fighter, his current record in the UFC, and what makes him so great. If you enjoyed at any point, give this video a like and subscribe for more content. Now let's get started. Similar to that of Khabib Nurmagomedov and his father, Tom grew up in a gym surrounded by mixed martial arts where his father practiced and coached. Early on, before the age of 10, he started training in wrestling, boxing, and then transitioning into Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Tom started to grapple when he was maybe 6 or 7. When he was about 10 or 11, he started to really enjoy it. And because I was teaching jiu-jitsu, he was a mat rat, he was with me every day. He'd done all the particular sports, jiu-jitsu, boxing, wrestling. And then I'd met Colin from Carbon, and it just came from there, really.
Now that's incredible given that some fighters don't start training until they turn 18. Where others like Francis Ngannou pivoted to MMA to help their family, and he did that when he was 22. And not just his father Andy, who pioneered BJJ in the United Kingdoms, but his mom's side also had uncles who were boxers.
It has been in my life for as long as I can remember. My dad, he used to work in IT, but he retired from that years ago and then started teaching jiu-jitsu full-time. My dad is a former fighter himself. He's always been into martial arts, and it's always been around. Even on my mum's side, they had fighters, boxers, and even if they weren't fighting professionally, they were all like scrappers and stuff anyway, so it's always been in my life.
History alone does not always mean that someone like Tom can be at the top of the rankings, but if you take other examples in a similar sport like boxing, then you can see some interesting similarities. At the top of the boxing world, there's several people who are essentially bred to be boxers starting early on. Floyd Mayweather's whole family were already boxers and trainers before he got his start, and it was clear that all those learnings were passed on to him. The same can be said for top fighters such as Naoya Inoue and Tyson Fury. In the same manner, Tyson Fury actually trained with Tom Aspinall early in their careers. So not only has the budding star grown up in the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu gym founded by his father Andy, he's also sparred and trained with the best heavyweight fighters we've seen this decade. Those two stamps alone can tell you that there's a lot more to this fighter than what he's shown, but that's not nearly enough to convince those in the MMA world that he's ready for the heavyweight title. So let's move on to his performances against some of the top fighters in the division. 5-0 UFC record. Aspinall's meteoric rise in the heavyweight division started in 2020 when he first signed. Here he began to see all the gym time and history start to show up. He fought against Jake Collier and took care of a solid fighter with a lot of experience in the UFC, all in the span of 45 seconds into the first round. Several fights later, he submitted one of the best to ever do it in the heavyweight division in Andrei Arlovski. This led to more insight into what Tom could do. He is able to take fighters who like striking to the ground and outstrike those who want to grapple. The mix of being a fast athlete who can dominate both on the ground and while standing presents a hard challenge for any UFC heavyweight. This became especially clear when he fought Alexander Volkov and easily dispatched him in the first round. Alexander is a towering 6'7" striker with an insane reach of 80 inches. However, that didn't bother Aspinall as he was able to dance around his opponent's strikes and then got on the inside to put Volkov on the defensive. The ground and pound and subsequent armbar submission came quickly after, pushing Tom Aspinall further up in the heavyweight rankings. What have you thought about Tom's performance in the UFC so far? He's currently undefeated in the UFC and has won 4 Performance of the Night awards out of those 5 fights. This fighter has managed to dominate all of his opponents, and he has rarely let the fight get past the first round. So what makes him so great? Knowledge and physical power go hand in hand when it comes to your instinct when going into war inside the cage. It's hard to find someone who's able to have that combination of IQ, quickness, and power. His boxing trainer, Colin Heron, took him in early on when he was just 15 and made it a focus to make sure he was agile and quick.
I was lucky enough to get him so young, so I was able to mould him into what I thought I'd like him to look like. From them early days, for me, it was all about getting him fast, keeping him moving, getting his angle game up, getting him as agile and as quick as I could, and that's how I've trained him. So now I believe he's probably as fast as a welterweight. I'll put him against welterweights in here. You can outspeed them, no problem. You can outgas tank them, no problem. So I think it's worked. I think it's paid dividends.
It makes sense why we've seen these incredible performances from Tom inside the ring. Not many heavyweight fighters expect to be dealing with the speed of a welterweight, and not only when it comes to striking, but his grappling as well. We tend to think of the heaviest division as slow and methodical, but now we're seeing a new breed, one that can be fast and can do everything in between. The last thing that we must talk about is how Tom is simply not running through his opponents, but also doing it in a smart way. He's not trying to stand with strikers like Alexander Volkov and Andrei Arlovski, and will use his advantage and skill to do most of the damage without getting hurt himself, making sure to increase the longevity of his fighting career, and he's barely reaching his prime. So to recap, Tom has grown up learning everything there is to learn in the MMA world and was molded at a young age to fight. He's able to box and grapple at a high level and has the speed and conditioning of a welterweight. If you don't think that's a perfect combination for a heavyweight champion, then comment below what you think his weaknesses may be. As of now, Aspinall is quickly rising through the rankings and have yet to face a wrestler, which may challenge his grappling skills. And apart from a wrestler, what other types of fighters do you think Tom needs to see before he's ready for a title contention? The one actual loss on his record was from a heel hook, which means he might not have as strong of a BJJ foundation as we had thought previously. That was years ago though, and knowing the team behind the budding UFC star, I would expect them to fix all these issues quickly and continue with Tom's growth. We hope you all enjoyed this deep dive on Tom Aspinall and what makes him so great. What do you think about him, and does he have what it takes to challenge the likes of Stipe, Francis, and all the other top heavyweights? Let us know in the comments below. Appreciate all the fight fans out there, and we'll have more content coming soon, so make sure to like and subscribe. Have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you next time on Knockout TV.